Would you have a baby if you won the lottery? One of the most popular explanations for the declining fertility may be wrong. Why, do tell. Have you finally caught up to where TFM was ages ago? I do wonder. South Korea's fertility rate. Oh, South Korea again. In current year -1 was just 0.78 children per whammons. In much of America, rates aren't significantly higher. 0.92 children per whammons in Puerto Rico, 1.36 in Vermont. In the Bay Area, it's about 1.3. Demographers give many explanations for declining birth rates, but the most popular revolves around work and family. In countries such as the social welfare states of Northern Europe, where whammons are given flexibility to square the demands of work and family, fertility rates are relatively high. In others, either work or family makes excessive and incompatible demands, family loses out, and fertility falls. And then they always end up regretting that, by the way. Like, that is always their regret at the end, is I wish I had family. I wish I, married, had kids, started a family instead of, being a man. So improving work-life balance is probably worthwhile and good for plenty of reasons, but very little evidence shows that it would have much effect on fertility. See, now we're getting to the good stuff, man. For example, when men help more at home, fertility doesn't rise. One current year -5 study found. Although the policies to support work and family do boost fertility, their cost is pretty high for fairly modest effects. Though they may have other valuable benefits. Child allowances, for example, reduce child poverty. So the ideal way to test the connection would be to randomly give people a much better set of work-life arrangements and see whether their family behaviors change. This would be hard to do, but as it happens, something like this random improvement in work-life balance actually occurs when people win the lottery. Ooh, we got the perfect sample right here, man. What happens when you win the lottery? Obviously, you get a considerable amount of money. Maybe you buy a new car or a house, or you pay off some debts. But you can also use your new wealth to establish a better work-life balance. Hire a cleaning service or a nanny, cut back on work hours. Large random transfers of wealth are a nice way to test a materialist account of fertility. If receiving a pile of cash makes people have more babies, then maybe work-life balance matters a lot. More income from less demanding work would boost births. But if the lottery winnings don't increase fertility, maybe work-life balance theory needs some adjustment. This is good, man. This is how you do real science. So a team of economists studying a large pool of lottery players in Sweden found that when men win the lottery, they become a lot more likelier than demographically similar lottery losers to get married, or if they were lower income and unmarried before their win, and they have more children. So men aren't the problem, like we've been told from the beginning. So I wonder what the problem could be if it's not men. It's got to be one of the other 70 genders, right? On its face, that supports the work-life balance idea. But when women win the lottery, the only big change in their behavior is divorce. Divorce rates for women almost double in the first couple of years after winning the lottery. So when men win the lottery, they start families. When women win the lottery, they leave their families. Maybe TFM was right all along. Why weren't people listening? He has the solution to increase the fertility rate, but it's the exact opposite of what the Western world is doing. So the authors offer some straightforward explanations. When men become wealthier, they become more desirable partners. Their marriage rate increases by a third, which is true, by the way. Although I would be very weary of any woman that only showed interest in me after she found out I was rich. Like that my gold digger alarm would just be gonna just ringing off the hook, man. Their increased fertility and an increase of about 13% was itself largely attributed to the effect of being married, because being married tends to cause higher fertility, especially for men. This extra wealth apparently had no major effect on women's desirability as partners, but because Swedish law allows lottery winners to hold on to most of their winnings, had perhaps a big effect on their expectations of a post-divorce standard of living, enabling them to feel more confident about exiting a marriage. Typical, exactly what we've been saying all along. They're always just looking for the next branch to like monkey branch off to. So helpfully, the study authors showed that their conclusions matched the findings of another study of lotteries in the US. It found that winning made both men and women more likely to marry, but that the effect was stronger for men, and that while it decreased divorce rates for men, it increased them for women's. Men seem to use their newfound resources to build families, while women's use them to exit families. This is what happens when you give them more empowerment. You know the solution to this. So this seems to be like an inversion of the common stereotypes about men and women, but reality is never so simple. Oh my God. It's almost as if the common stereotypes have all just been propaganda, huh? So marriage is a strong predictor of fertility for many reasons, not the least is the relationship between marital status and mental health. Wow. Now, talk to some of the married guys I know, because mental health has a large impact on childbearing. Lottery winnings boosted male marriage and fertility, not because men had unique desires for marriage and family, but at least in part because Swedish women were likelier to marry and have children with men who had more money. It's not just Sweden, it's everywhere. The effect for men is as much about women's preferences and behaviors as men's. So women's responses to winning the lottery were similarly more complex. Divorce rates did not rise equally for all of them. That increase, the authors found, was concentrated among previously low-income women who had been married to older or wealthier men, and those who were married for 3 years or less. The condition under which these women entered those marriages with their husbands could be more important than the lottery winnings. Yeah, so remember that, like, especially unless you're a well-off guy, like if you're, poor or middle class, marries to a woman in the same economic bracket, just understand she's probably only with you because you're the best she could do at the time. And as soon as she has her golden ticket out of the marriage, it's like, well, I could do better than him. So crucially, 10 years after the lottery, winners were no more likely to divorce than other women. In other words, lottery money may have accelerated inevitable divorces rather than break apart couples that would otherwise have stayed together for the long term. Well, 10 years after the lottery, that money ran out, most likely. And now they need to stay with the man that they're currently with to maintain their lifestyle. So that makes sense. If people want to have more children than they can presently afford, the surveys have repeatedly suggested that they do, and societies as a whole thrive when parents of all kinds are able to raise their children in stable households, then declining birth rates are cause for alarm. And for governments seeking to reverse them by creating family policies, this research indicates that some kinds of spending may prove more effective than others. We've known this in regards to the public indoctrination system for a long time. Like, just throwing more money at the school system has done nothing. The performance still keeps getting worse. We keep giving them more money and they keep getting worse. That's just because the administration, like the bloat, is sucking up all the money and never makes it to the students anyway. But clearly the solution is just throwing more money at the problem, right? Yeah, I'm glad you're finally realizing that. So first, it suggests that a core part of low fertility is how people, especially women, value potential partners. Yeah, I knew it was women's fault. In surveys, women continue to report desiring much higher earning partners, and when men suddenly have more money, they do in fact get married more. Policymakers cannot and should not solve this by handing out man bonuses. However, understanding why men and boys are becoming more likely to fall behind women in terms of indoctrination, professional attainment could be a core part to increasing fertility. Well, maybe it's because that they are outright hostile to you in the indoctrination system. The whole system has been tailored to fit women, and they treat you like a problem while you're there. And then they wonder why guys are leaving. And plus, actually, you got to also realize women, they're the problem here. Like men, I've yet to see a man that had a problem doing what we call dating down. Like, I always use the example, like, you could have a multimillionaire, a fucking billionaire. They got no problems hooking up with an Applebee's waitress. But if a woman is a billionaire, yeah, she wants a multi-billionaire. Like, she's not going to settle for anything less. But the problem she has is the guys that she is going for would be much happier with the younger, prettier Applebee's waitresses. Maybe it's not even just that colleges are hostile to them. Maybe they're realizing Why would I go to college just to get one of those women that hates my guts anyway? Like, nah, I'll stay away from that. So, second, policymakers should avoid thinking about family policy as an issue uniquely related to women's. Arguments that fertility can be increased by pushing for maximal gender egalitarian society. No, that's been having the opposite effect, actually. Or by delivering family subsidies to disproportionately to mothers should be reconsidered. Yes, this is good advice. You can't get higher fertility without men on board. Thank you for finally realizing this. Only policies that make space for men and women to choose prioritizing parenting can support higher fertility in industrialized societies. Yeah, like as a man, what motivation do I have to do this? Give me that motivation. And by the way, when I say give me that motivation, I'm not saying, yeah, threaten to take things away from me if I don't do what you say. That's just going to turn us against you even more. No, you actually have to, instead of whipping harder, you're going to have to actually use the carrot instead of the stick. Because, I mean, I'll be honest, like we pretty much become immune to the stick at this point. Yeah, now we just kind of shrug, like, especially when all those like feminazis, like they always do that. Like, a day without women, or we're on a sex strike until our guys do this, that, or the other for us. Notice that no one ever cares. Yeah, guys are like, why would we want to have sex with any of them anyway? Why? So, in third, marriage itself matters, and marriage responds to marital incentives. Boosting fertility by directly targeting fertility is difficult and expensive. One reason is that marriage continues to be a gatekeeping institution for larger families. Only by removing obstacles to marriage and helping young people wed earlier and stick together can birth rates be sustainably increased. Now, you want to know how you can accomplish this? We're actually going to have to fall on hard times, because during hard times, men and women get together out of necessity, and they stay together out of necessity. Even if they don't initially like each other, they learn to live with each other out of necessity. If you remove that necessity, that's when you run into all the I'm not happy problems. But when you're struggling to put food on the table, I'm not happy isn't an excuse anymore, because the alternative is you're probably going to starve. It is a challenging task, and pro-nuptialism has even less high-quality research on it than pro-natalism. It's almost as if it's intentional. It's like these groups have been trying to destroy marriage and the nuclear family, huh? So, however, policymakers could offer marriage bonuses or at least eliminate marriage penalties, like the fact that low-income people can lose their housing or SNAP benefits if they choose to combine their incomes. Or better yet, remove all alimony, 50-50 child custody should be the default. Yeah, no more. The guy has to keep providing for the woman everything he did while they were married, because that's what she got accustomed to. But she doesn't have to do anything for him, even though he got accustomed to that. Like, that double standard has to go. They're not even going to consider that option, though, are they? So this much seems safe to say: working class people shouldn't need to win the lottery to feel like they can afford to get married and have kids. I do agree with you on this, but working class men shouldn't have to worry that as soon as she's not happy, my whole life is destroyed either. So unless you protect men from the predatory divorce courts, you're not gonna get men jumping on board. Well, you always got a few suckers, but the number of suckers is getting less and less by the year, and that's why they keep freaking out like this. Because it was no big deal when it was only a few guys, but now that it's like, I think it's over 50% of guys now are at least sympathetic towards this mindset. Now they're getting worried.